So, Elizabeth Hobson, how's it going?
It's going very well, thank you, Ewan.
So, we're at the International Conference on Men's Issues 2018, and you're actually part of J4MB now, Justice for Men and Boys. You've become Mike's sidekick for this
Yeah,
enterprise.
yeah.
So, how's that going, and how's the build up to the conference this year been?
Okay, so I've been Director of Communications at J4MB for maybe 2 months now, something like that, and thus far it has been a lot of hard work, but me and Mike work really, really well together.
Hmm.
It's a real pleasure working with him, and he is investing in me. He's taking me out to courses and getting me, the skills that I need to hopefully do a good job in my role
Okay,
at J4MB, which is really encouraging and really fulfilling.
right, right.
And it's weird because if I didn't know better, I'd almost think he wasn't a misogynist.
Oh, I see. Right, yeah, yeah. He tries hard to be, but yeah, sometimes the guard slips and reveals that he's a normal, nice person. But yeah, there we are. So, what courses have you been to up
we
your
we
game
went
as the?
we went very recently to a course in public affairs
Mm,
to find out how laws are made and who specifically we need to target
yeah,
if we want to get legislation changed or the issues that are important to us heard by politicians. And it's not necessarily the people you think. I mean, in my work with Ladies for Philip Davies, the first thing that we did was we sent emails to every single MP, which is like, there's over 600 of them, I think.
sure, sure.
Um, and, you know, um, we almost exclusively received back from them
Yeah.
emails saying, are you one of my constituents? If you are, send me your address, and if you're not, I'm not going to talk to you.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, some replied, and of the ones that replied, we got maybe 10 replies from MPs who weren't our MPs.
Sure.
Or,
Sure.
some other people emailed joined in the campaign and emailed their MPs, and they got replies to them. But us personally, we got maybe 10
Mm-hmm.
back from MPs who didn't have to respond. And of them, maybe 4 were kind of in favour of what we were suggesting, which was that the Women and Equalities Committee
Hmm.
change their name to the Equalities Committee.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And the other 6 were like, this is preposterous,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
Feminism.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's a bit different now then working under Mike than when you were running that campaign.
Yeah, well, it's a lot more serious. J4MB is established, so I'm aware that we've got something that's good and not broke.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't want to come in and try and fix it, you know what I mean? Which is a very different experience to starting something from the ground up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And working with Mike is different to working with, a number of women. But it's been really, really lovely so far. And the rapport we have is excellent.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. And for the conference, you've been helping out with getting that ready a bit as well, is it?
Yeah. It's been, what have I been doing for the conference? Writing, mainly writing stuff I've been doing for the conference.
Okay. Sure.
Bits
Sure.
of writing and bits of admin.
Yes. Yeah.
And chasing up and building relationships with people,
Yeah.
particularly journalists.
Right.
Which
Okay.
is like, I've put quite a lot of effort into that, and I've kind of, or we, because Mike was involved in some of that as well, have managed to there's 2 journalists at the conference who are, I mean, there's more than 2 at the conference, but there's 2 who seem to be engaging with us and the issues
Yeah.
on a productive level, and who might be able to publish stories in the coming week that are favourable to us, which will be an
Right.
unusual experience in the
Yeah.
mainstream media.
Uh-huh.
So that's been really enjoyable. There is a number of journalists who got in touch with me and asked for guidance on the issues and getting to know the speakers. And I spent a lot of time doing that, and they haven't turned up so far. Hoping they turn up today.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they're at the office on Friday.
Right,
It's
right.
quite irritating.
Yeah.
But I suppose that's the name of the game.
You've done some media appearances before, radio and TV and so on. And you're
have I been on TV?
I believe so. I think you were on RT, weren't you?
Yeah, I was on RT. You're
yeah,
right,
I remember
right,
that
I was
one.
on
Yeah.
RT. I was on RT, and it was about Sweno Pye's
Yes. Yeah.
campaign to establish a minister for men.
Mm-hmm.
And so they met up with me and took it was like a 5-minute interview, and as part of it I listed a list of male disadvantages that a minister for men would be responsible for and could keep an eye on and might help with. And then when the video came out, I sit there and I say something about there are lots of issues, and then they've cut it all down to one.
Yeah.
And they cut it down to it was something like baby boys born today are 70% less likely to go to university, which is the least important issue. It's an important issue.
It's not up there with suicide and prison
no,
statistics and
access rights and stuff like that. So that was a bit disappointing. But yeah, I'm also on BBC Radio Kent a lot. I've become their resident anti-feminist.
Oh, that's really good. Yeah.
Yeah, which is a kind of funny position to be in.
How does that work? Is it good viewers for their radio station or
listeners?
Yeah, listeners.
I've got no idea.
I suppose you could be viewing the radio at the time,
I
but
imagine it's fair, and they have me on. They've had me on in drive time, basically, either in the morning or in the evening. So people are stuck in their cars,
listening to the local radio station and
looking out for traffic reports.
And they hear a little bit about the anti-feminist message from yourself.
I mean, so far, they've only had me on to talk about women's issues, which is when it first happened, I was like, God, this is quite refreshing, talking about women for a change, actually. And then it was again, and I was like, okay, I'd quite like to talk a bit about men now. And yeah, now I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for them to call me up and say, actually, can we talk about men now?
They haven't brought up the subjects of men yet.
The last time I was on, we were actually talking about objectification.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason we were talking about it was because a woman journalist, who I've forgotten who it was, wrote an article just calling out the double standards in the, all these women and journalists and people in the media go on about Poldark, whoever that actor is.
Yeah.
And they always show this picture of him with his top off and, kind of talk about him in a way that would be completely unacceptable for men to talk about a woman.
Right.
So they had me on to talk about that, and they wanted to know if it was sexist double standards, and that was my longest slot. It was just me, and it was a full 10 minutes, and I had this list that I'd written out of because I wanted to go that there are massively sexist double standards in that way, but there are fucking far worse sexist double standards going on in the UK, that disadvantage men and boys, and I kept kind of trying to steer it back onto men, and the interviewer just kept steering me back onto women,
right, yeah,
basically.
Yeah. So for J4MB, you're going to continue trying to do media appearances as well?
Yeah, I had to turn down a TV appearance on Good Morning Britain with Piers Morgan last Thursday.
Yeah.
because, like, well, it's funny, it's ironic because the subject was apparently some reports been released that shows that some employers are somewhat reluctant to hire women of childbearing age. And I couldn't make it because I had family commitments.
Okay, yeah.
With my children.
Hopefully we'll get to see you
play.
on Good Morning Britain with Piers and Susanna.
Nice.
That would be good, yeah.
But I mean, Mike offered to do it instead of me, and they said, no thank you, we want a woman.
Right, yeah.
Which was also highly ironic. But it was also a shame because I sent him a text message before they turned him down and said, like, you know, they might ask you if you would hire a woman, and if they do, you have my full permission to say, you know, well, actually, I have appointed a female director of communications, and she can't be here today because she's at school play.
Okay,
that would
sure,
have been hilarious.
Sure. Yes, yeah. No, that sounds great, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the conference, and I wish you well in your future career with J4MB. So, thank you for having taken the time for this interview today.
Thanks, Ewan.
Cheers, thank you.